All right, so let's look at section 3.2. So how can our practices improve or degrade soil? Take a think about this for a second. What are some ways we can affect the soil quality? What are things we do on, near, around soil that could make it better or make it worse for the plants? So remember, soil is important. It's an important living resource. In these natural environments, nutrients are returned to the soil when plants and animals die and decompose. When we harvest the plants, we remove the plant and any nutrients that it could give back to the soil. So over time, this can mean the soil doesn't have enough nutrients to give life to new plants. Right? If these plants are just like straws sucking up all the nutrients, and then we cut them down and we take them with us, they don't decompose, they don't give anything back to the soil, and the soil can be overdrawn, it can lose nutrients and not have enough for any more. And that can cause problems. So just what do you think? Which of these human actions would help or hinder the soil's nutrients? And think about it for a second. So a farmer puts manure on her fields. Does this help or hinder? A potato farmer irrigates her crop. Irrigate is to water. They water the crop. The stubble that is left when a grain crop is harvested is plowed into the soil. The stubble is like the very little plants. That's what the picture is trying to show for you. Would that be good for the soil? What if a group of hikers burn all the dead and fallen trees in an area for firewood? A farmer plants canola on the same fields year after year after year. And a construction crew clear-cut a section of forest to make a park on a river bend. I think that one's pretty obvious. That's not going to help very much. But not all of these are as clear as good only or bad only as we might think. So let's get into this a bit more. So fertilizer. The nutrients that soils need to support plants can be provided by fertilizers. We've got two types of fertilizers, organic and chemical. So organic chemicals are made from animal or plant waste. That would be these guys here. This is a food compost. This, of course, is manure or animal waste. And over here, we've got our chemical fertilizers. Those are mixtures of chemicals that promote plant growth. They both have, pros and cons to them. Again, take a second. What might be some advantages of using fertilizers and some harms to using fertilizers? Pause the video, think about it, but try to stay active here. What are some ways fertilizer might be bad? Because it sounds pretty good. So the amount of fertilizer needs to be balanced with the amount of nutrients the plant actually needs. First, if the plant has too much of one nutrient, it could harm that plant. But also it can only absorb so much soil at once. So this extra unused nutrients can dissolve into rainwater or irrigation water, water the plants have been watered with, and be carried into streams, rivers, or lakes, causing an algae plant to grow. This can severely damage the water ecosystem. It can block the sun and take out all of the oxygen from the water and really destroy that system. It can kill fish and other animals in there as well. And it's not very sightly for us humans. Right? Irrigation. So irrigation is used to grow plants in areas that are too dry to typically support that plant growth, which is most of Canada, at least Alberta. This helps increase crop yield. So you've probably seen this if you've driven just about anywhere outside of Edmonton. These big structures on farms. These are big water hoses, and they're going to water the plants very specifically. And we call that large-scale watering irrigation. So, yes, your plants need water, but it needs to be done correctly. So too much irrigation, so if we overwater, we can fill all the pores in the soil we talked about the other day with water, which means there's not enough room for air. This means the plants don't grow very well. They can't get their roots through the water as well. It can also dissolve salts in the soil and pull them up to the surface. This makes the topsoil very salty and very difficult for plants to survive. So, too much water, not so good. Too little water, well, that won't be good either for your plants. It's a very tricky balance. All right, clearing the land. So humans clear cut for many reasons. Right? Originally, farms needed to be cleared. They needed to clear the fields of all the other plants so their seeds could grow. Foresters clear land for the wood and replant young trees. Developers clear the land for homes or shopping centers. Whichever reason why we're clearing the land, it still has that same effect, really. And it can be very harmful on the ecosystem in general, but also the soil that is there. So it's going to expose the soil to the weather, and the plant roots aren't there anymore to hold it together. So it can be blown away by the wind. It can be washed away by the rain. And it can be compacted and squished together by pounding rains, making it very difficult, again, for new roots to get through, for new plants to grow. Plowing. So plowing is when we cut into the soil and turn the top layer over. So it's going to break up the soil. It creates more air spaces on a much smaller scale. We often do this in our gardens at home in spring because the snow that sat on it compacted it all winter. Right, so it's going to loosen up the soil. It'll make more pores, let the plants get their roots in there. Seems like a good idea, but if we overdo it, it can damage the soil because it's cutting those soil particles smaller and smaller. This can mean that the pores get too big. It can become waterlogged. It's just full of water and compacted very easily. Again, a theme here. We need to balance what we're doing. Crop rotation. So crop rotation is, as you might imagine, rotating the crop that is planted in the fields every season. The types of plants rotate through match nutrient needs. So if you look at this picture here, so this first plant needs specific nutrients, the boxes and the octagons. So it's going to take those nutrients, say it's nitrogen and phosphorus. That soil will then be low in those nutrients when we remove that plant. So the next year, if we plant a different plant, this time using different nutrients, So it's giving the soil some time to replenish itself from the nutrients that it lost the previous season, and to get rid of or to use the nutrients that it didn't use. So this is helping to keep the soil good, full of the nutrients the plants need, with that balance of nutrients. It'll limit the amount of fertilizers you need to add to your soil because they already have those nutrients that the plant needs. So picture kind of like this. They do wheat and clover. The next year they flip their fields and do clover and wheat. This is crop rotation. You're rotating the crops in your field. That's it for today. Finish up these practice questions. Go through them. Really think through these different questions I'm asking you. These are more large scale, but even small scale things that you're doing at your home, in your garden, in your backyard can affect the soil quality that you have. So really think about that today. And if you have any questions, as always, ask your teacher. Thank you. Have a good day.